Taming the Future, Part 1. I'm going to read this. It may be the most important thing that you hear. Why not? It's not impossible. There is more going on in the world than a lot of people imagine. The Arab Spring and Occupy Wall Street are but the first stirrings of a social volcano that means to be fiery and powerful and historically extensive. In terms of social change, a social springtime is a long time, and there is much yet to be occupied. The ordinary people of the world, now interconnected via social media, are testing their capacity to influence ongoing social and political events. This is kind of like a child learning to walk and talk and think. There are millions of us. Millions joined via social media who know things are not right and who believe in our hearts that there has to be something we can do about it. So we rise up and talk to each other and seek for a way to bring to bear the impact of our united conscience, the moral influence of the free social world. Via this thinking, we are finding thousands of ways. At the same time, there are special points or special places where some concentrated, united activity can accomplish more. A place where we step outside our smaller groups and for a time join something larger. The present-day presidential election in America is one such place needing our collective wisdom. What is involved here is the insertion of a single revolutionary idea into the social media conversation of millions. One simple idea. That idea is that everyone in the world has a right to participate in the presidential election in America because everyone in the world is affected by it. In the early days of Americans' founding was the phrase, "No taxation without representation." The world is at a similar place with regard to the politics in America. It needs to tell Americans that the whole world has a right to participate. The race for the presidency in America is not private to Americans. At the same time, it is possible to fear that since the whole world can't vote in America, we are all out of luck. That is not true, because the reality is that it is not the votes that are the most significant, but the conversation. The vote is the last thing that happens, and before that, there has to be a conversation. And what is being said here in this video is that everyone in the world has a right to participate in the conversation about who should be elected president in America. Everyone in the world. Americans have this funny way of talking about their president, and it is sometimes a way of talking that goes beyond our borders. We often call the president the leader of the free world. While that may technically not be true in the sense of who gets to vote or not, in a real social, functional way, it is effectively true. America dominates much that goes on, and all manner of conflicts in the world are influenced by various nation-states that want to fight against that American dominance. Further, many people confuse the work of American corporations or military might with cultural influences. Yes, multinational corporations, often backed by the military-industrial complex, do aggressively act in the world and by various means seem to dominate much that happens, the so-called American empire. Yet at the same time, American cultural artifacts have a more profound influence than do these lesser powers, as anyone knows who has followed the social influence and history of rock and roll. Because of that influence that erupted upon the world in the 50s and 60s, the whole world has become involved in a musical conversation. The same is true with regard to movies and television. Technical innovation may start in America, but it then spreads out over the whole world where these tools become then the artistic means by which all cultures, especially via their young, share what they think and how they feel. As a result, we now have YouTube, which is so powerful that political powers in the Islamic world recently used what arises there as an excuse to move forward their ideological agendas. But YouTube is much more. Everyone can be an artist on YouTube. Everyone. In point of fact, cell phone technology has gotten so sophisticated that just with a phone one can make videos and distribute them via YouTube to the whole world to see on their own phones. Individuals now are creators and producers and distributors of a new emerging worldwide culture of free individuals who not only create but whose creations are then voted upon by how quickly they become seen, such that we have had to invent a whole new concept to point to this: going viral. This cannot be controlled by nation states, although many try. In the 1960s, as America tried to resist their own government's descent into the madness of the Vietnam War, protesters often chanted, "The whole world is watching." At that time, protest was dependent upon major media in order to be seen. This is no longer true, and in point of fact, a viral video is often picked up by major media and reshown precisely because the news also has to take account of cultural changes. What this means is that the whole world not only has the right to influence the election in America of an individual often called the leader of the free world, the whole world also has the means to place itself into the middle of the conversation and change that conversation from the vain and ambitious arguments of politicians and corporate liars to a conversation that is sane, wise, and profound, because it will mostly arise out of the conscience of the world's young, those who are in the end going to have to inherit the world now being created. Let me repeat that. What this means is that the whole world not only has a right to influence the election in America of an individual often called the leader of the free world, the whole world also has the means to place itself into the middle of the conversation and change that conversation from the vain and ambitious arguments of politicians and corporate liars to a conversation that is sane, wise, and profound, because it will mostly arise out of the conscience of the world's young, those who in the end are going to have to inherit the world now being created. Do not doubt for a minute that although we are just a few weeks from that election, that the world can touch this election for the leader of the free world and not only have a say that is influential, but also one that will make the political and corporate leaders all over the world sit up and take notice. The world's social conscience can speak, if it chooses, and that speaking can change the world by just changing the conversation. This is the time and place to assert that right. Just that act will change the world. Put in your point of view. Offer it up on YouTube. Pass those on to others that you like, and participate in the first political election conversation that the whole world claims the right to own. This power over the political conversation, free of the restraints of nation states and corporate media, does need your attention and participation. The time is now to seize the day.